Okay, so this is how you service your Audi Q3 2-litre TDI, about 2014, 2015. Okay, before you start to service the car, it's always a good idea to just start it up and make sure there's no lights on the dashboard. You can see the service light is displayed there. We've got the bonnet open, but you can see there's no ECU light, anything on the dashboard. And then let's start doing the oil change. Okay, the first step to servicing your TDI, you need to take out the oil filter. It's underneath this cover. In order to get to the oil filter, you have to remove this little bracket. You can see there's a bolt here, and then this little bracket here will come off, and then you'll have access to the oil filter inside there. It's always important to note the correct level for the coolant. Usually we like to fill them to just above the mark, just so you can see the waters there. Okay, there you have access to the oil filter. Okay, then you can just remove the oil filter. And there you can see is the housing, which we'll just clean out with a rag quickly. Usually in most cases you would just drain the oil on the sump nut. We're fortunate enough to have an oil sucker. As you can see, it's busy sucking all the oil out of the engine there, and then we can just refill it without having to even lift the vehicle up. Hold on. Hey. Action. Okay, so now we're going to fit the oil filter, completed with the O-rings, into the space. It is a bit finicky to get it in there because there's very, very little clearance between the housing and the outside. There we go. And using our 32 socket. Okay, this housing, it works with the O-ring, so I think the spec is about 20 or 15 Newton meters, so it's not tight. You're just going to pull it to this last bit. Just come show you. And that's it. So now we just fill the oil, and then we can start it and double check the oil level. Okay. Now we're going to reset the service indicator using VCDS. Use the SRI reset function. And there we would select fix and ESI. And then we perform the service interval. That's because it's uninitialized, so yes. 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 Okay, now we're just checking the oil level. You can see it should be just on the perforated section, right there. Come on. Let's see, it's exactly on the mark. Right, now that we've done the oil change part, we can do the rest of the inspection. What you'd want to do is make sure, check on the battery, make sure the terminals are tight, the battery is secure. Then you would fill up the windscreen washer fluid. You can see we have already filled it. Inspect around the engine to make sure there's no fluid leaks. You can just see this engine is just quite dusty. Actually needs to be actually going to wash it for the customer. Okay, make sure there's no physical damage on anything. There's no broken wires and no broken pipes. What you want to do is to physically inspect the brakes. Usually you can just have a look through the rim. You can already see these brake pads are still almost 90%, so they're still fine. We're inspecting the tire tread. Make sure that it's smooth over the surface of the tire and that there's no wear on the inside or the outside. As we go around, also just check the back brakes at the same time. You can see as well in this case brake pads are about 80%. The discs look fine, there's no wear on them, and you can see the tires are all fine. We can also inspect the shock mount at the same time. Generally what you would do as a rule of thumb, as you're servicing the car, you would lubricate all the door straps and the hinge points, as well as the striker part of the lock, so that the door will close smoothly. As well as, don't forget about the boot. You would also lubricate the lock here, and then make sure that the boot shocks are clean of debris and that there's no debris by the hinges. At the same time, it's also a good idea, check the spare wheel of the car. You can see this spare wheel is fine, but it's not secured, so we'll report that it's not secured. We also want to check and make sure the tools are there, the tow hook is there. The tools you can open up and make sure that your lock nut is there, because usually when you're stuck on the side of the road, you don't need to know that your lock nut is missing because you put tires and someone forgot to put it back. So then once we're done on the exterior, we can go on the interior. And the best thing to do, start the car, then we can test all the interior panels, make sure that the windows are all working, and as well as the rear and the other side. Then make sure that there's no debris in all the vents. Check if the seats are moving correctly. No noise coming from the steering. As you can see on this car, there's a crack on the windscreen that we will put onto the job card. Okay, and then the next step is to take it for your road test. Alright, so that's it. The service and inspection is pretty much done. We've done all the necessary things to check for a long trip. And please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Right, then at the end of any good service, you do want to test drive the car. Obviously you're going to feel for any stutters and acceleration. Make sure the turbo is boosting. Then at this time you're going to listen for any noises. Like in this car we can hear the shock saddles are making a noise and the stabilizer links, although it's only got 130,000 Ks. And obviously you're just going to make sure selecting all the gears correctly. There's no noise in any of the gears. In this case, nothing. And once you've done your test drive, you can do your stamping of the service book. And that's it. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and share this video with any one of your friends with a Q5 that may want to know how to do a service. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon.